He said all this while keeping up basketball references in every line. But if no team draft king, he gonna bet on the block. I'm not gonna lie. These were some fire bars. When you said about one of his most notable albums in history and will be hip hop classic forever, To Pimp a Butterfly was a sleeper, right? We gave you a pass for that, Cole. Sing to Me, I'm Dying of Thirst, The Blacker the Berry. No third eye? Are you apologizing? But now you're gonna diss? He's a friend you're gonna hang out with after school, but if you did something wrong in class, he's gonna be the first person to tell the teacher. But these two goons, Drake and Kendrick, were dumb. They were just doing it for clout and money. Not me. Me, on the other hand, at this point in both Kendrick and Drake's career, do we really think they did this rap beef for getting clicks? The person who made To Pimp a Butterfly, the person who made the Damn album, I just don't buy it. So I have to say, the lines are phenomenal. The lines are phenomenal. Even though I'm mad about the sentiment of what he's saying. J. Cole, maybe you do need to fight. Maybe you do need to engage in some competition to be considered the best. Respectfully to J. Cole. So my question to Cole is, maybe the culture, the fans, the art, the creativity, the combat, the engagement, the respect, the disrespect matters in hip hop. The same fans you're saying on social media competing for your favorable memes, you're competing for the same here. You don't want people to wipe away your pedigree, and neither did Drake or Kendrick want that either. And you see, this is why Kendrick was right from the beginning. Maybe Kendrick doesn't just want to make good music. Maybe to Kendrick, there's more to the story. Jay, Smoke Has Cleared, Cole is back. And no, I'm just teasing. I do think this song is lyrically phenomenal, but I do think Cole had a few strong sneak disses on Kendrick I didn't expect, and I want to talk about it. So I'm going to come at this with somewhat of a Kendrick fan lens while still giving a lot of credit definitely to what I've seen throughout the lyrics. Did J. Cole apologize to Drake? Am I tripping? Is this an ode to Drake or something towards the end of the song? J. Cole, is this song even going to be up for long, or are you going to delete it? Now, let's get to it. In this song, it feels to me like Cole is going through so many emotions at once. Like, he feels good about bowing out of the rap beef. He speaks some of his truths. Was feeling some reckless bravery, I might say, calling out Kendrick. Critical of both his peers, Kendrick and Drake. Wants to send a helping hand to Drake. And at the same damn time, wants to be known as the better MC. I do think this song itself, as I said, was lyrically phenomenal, but there were some disses towards Kendrick I felt were disingenuous and went a little left. So I will break down some of the dope rap bars, my sentiments on what J. Cole is saying, and my thoughts on what he says towards Kendrick. Clearly, there were some points made about Drake also, right? But I would say Cole definitely sung more praise for Drake than disses when you get towards the end. I mean, if you really dig in, beside the fire bars, entendres, and criticism of the rap beef, at the end it almost feels like an apology to Drake. And I wonder why he did more praise for Drake in this, because you don't really see praise for Kendrick per se in this song at all, just the criticism part. And my guess is that maybe it's because he feels he already praised Kendrick when he bowed out of the beef initially with the apology on stage. And since then, he stayed quiet, which has caused social media and some reactors to start brainstorming narratives about where he sits in the beef and pinning him against Drake. He did have features with Drake's enemies since the beef, so it's become kind of confusing. So maybe Cole felt he needed to be perceived as a savior, throw Drake a lifeline, and some screenshots show that Drake liked the song on Instagram. But I do think this is somewhat of what makes J. Cole come off as out of touch a little bit, or flip-flopping, because we don't fully know where he stands. In this video, let's do a full breakdown of some of the best bars in this song. I mean, I do think there were some really, really dope lyrics. Provide some commentary and thoughts on some of the disses towards Kendrick without losing my cool. Discuss the Drake praise. Look at all these pretty dope entendres and try to decipher exactly what J. Cole is saying and what he's saying about Kendrick and Drake. The name of the song, Port Antonio, does feel a little random and maybe something only J. Cole knows. I can't say that I know what this title meant. Port Antonio is a city in Jamaica, which to me in the cover art for the song, it looks like it's a picture of him with his friends in that city. Port Antonio just seems like a really beautiful and famous part of Jamaica.
Yeah. If you notice, you look around, it's polluted free. No plastic on the water, no garbage. It's absolutely clean and beautiful.
I imagine he did this, it's just meant for J. Cole maybe to describe a getaway and as a parallel to the type of time he's on, always kind of being on this parallel mission, avoiding everyone else. The sample of the song is kind of interesting. The sample has that timestamp rap sound feel. It's a sample that was used many times in music and in older rap songs and also R&B songs. The sample is from a song called A Garden of Peace by Lonnie Liston Smith. And this sample was used in two really popular rap songs, Dead Presidents by Jay-Z
Roll like bad hands, roll like Monopoly, advance your
and Meek Mill's Respect the Game.
Bad, got him big mad. A nigga get into some money in his bitch bag. Jumping out the.
It just has that really serious tone, which is why I think J. Cole used it.
We was skipping church, but my eyes was on the sparrows. Niggas flipping pies.
All right, let's get to the lyrics. So I'm going to break this down into some really dope bars I felt J. Cole had. Then I'm going to break also down into my thoughts on this is towards Kendrick, the kind of sneak this is, and his criticism of the rap beef. Jealous dudes want to know just how my rhymes blew. Mano a mano, I'm Bono, I'm you times two. Now I'm bougie. I done outgrew the fountain blue. I thought these lines were just really, really good wordplay. Mano a mano is originally a Spanish phrase that literally means hand to hand. It came from the Spanish bullfighting era where each fighter took turns against the bull. But it's transformed today into what is known as man-to-man confrontational combat, or a battle, or a face-to-face challenge. It's somewhat ironic because that is the thing Cole ran from, but I'll save that for later in the video. Then he says, I'm Bono, I'm you times two. So Bono is the lead vocalist for that older group U2. So a really nice wordplay where he says, I'm U2, like the band, but means I'm you to the second power. I thought that was pretty dope. And U2 actually is a band that collaborated with Kendrick on the Damn album, and I think the song XXX. Then he says, I'm bougie, though I outgrew the fountain blue. Fountain Blue is a resort in Las Vegas and Miami that comes from a French word and a scenic forest in France called Fontainebleau. I don't even know if I'm saying that right, but a lot of people here just say Fontainebleau. So this word has become synonymous with luxury and richness. So J. Cole is just saying, I'm beyond all that and higher than this luxury. And maybe he's also saying, even beyond my thirst for that luxury. All right, the next line. If I could do it all over, then I never would swap. I've seen good, I've seen bad, had my melanin mocked. I've seen lifelong friends turn to devilish ops. Then he goes on to say, you can't relate lest your father was not around, and your mother went out and found someone else and then brought them around, and their salaries then combined. When they married, it brought you out of that poverty. Then you moved into a soft little part of town so that when you go back in the hood, you feel awkward about it now and your confidence starts to drown. But the rapping gave you some positive thoughts and you jot them down. I love these lines, but I wanted to get to the melanin mock part. I'll be honest, for a while, I didn't know that J. Cole was biracial. And it's all good. Drake is also biracial. And they both have a black father and white mother. Struggling to come to terms with racial identity can be a real issue for many people. Kendrick said on Section 80, off of the first song, F Your Ethnicity, black, white, Asian, Hispanic, god damn it, that don't mean shit to me, F your ethnicity.
Fire burning inside my eye.
I always found that very intriguing from Kendrick's side, even though they tried to come at Kendrick in so many different type of ways with colorism. So having that biracial identity, I think aligns J. Cole and Drake a little more. Maybe they can just relate to each other better regarding certain struggles. But here in this line, I think Cole is bringing up the issues of colorism. And colorism is a form of discrimination or prejudice in which people are treated differently based on the shade or tone of their skin, usually within the same racial group or ethnic group. And it's honestly, it's a real issue for almost all non-white cultures, all non-white races and cultures. So Cole in these lines, he's not being very clear as to what the issues are exactly. He isn't revealing exactly the issues that he's facing. This struggle with colorism leads me back to Drake. I've said before that I always found it strange that Drake was the one to instigate colorism in his disses when he said, you the black messiah wifing up a mixed queen and hit vanilla cream to help out with your self-esteem. I always thought these lines were really, really ugly. And I'm pretty sure Kendrick did not initiate those issues. Maybe some of the fans played into these things, but not Kendrick. And I know many people who struggle with colorism, so those lines did really bother me in particular. But back to J. Cole, I had found some things Cole said in previous interviews regarding colorism, and there's a lot he said, so just bear with me. I want to point some of this out. I can't identify with white people because I know my mother, her side of the family, who I love, I've had white friends. I know people from high school that I might not have hung out with outside of high school, but I think I got to know them pretty well. But at the end of the day, I never felt white. And then in another BET interview, he says, I don't think I'd be aware of the inequalities if I wasn't in these classes with all the white kids, but then all my friends outside of class are not in these classes. And I see what happens in their classes or right down the street at the school that was my district, the school I was supposed to go to. They don't even have books to take home. But why my school, which is 60% white, why does it have more than enough? I don't think I've been aware of that had I not been brought up with a white mother. Now, this ties right into the bars he's saying here, which is that he grew up in another side of town. He got moved from one side to another side when his parents made like a little more money. Drake also has very similar sentiment to this that I thought was interesting that kind of aligned them.
Tweets, Drake claims he wasn't cool in high school. What made you uncool?
It wasn't that I wasn't cool, it was that the kids that were cool, I wasn't on their wavelength. I just always felt like an outsider. I went, when I was in Forest Hill, you know, it was an all Jewish school, like, and just being biracial, but still being Jewish, so I was like kind of connected to the kids, but like sort of distant. And when kids are young, they don't necessarily comprehend everything.
Right.
So it can get a little cruel.
Another thing that J. Cole said in another BET interview, there are some women out there that are like, I don't even like light-skinned men, and that's fine. But Barack Obama would not be president if he were dark-skinned, he says. That's just the truth. I might not be as successful as I am now if I was dark-skinned, but it's just a sad truth. These are some of the interviews he's done. It seems like he's always kind of had this struggle with colorism, and he's brought it back into this song, which I thought Drake did too much of in the rap beef. Benjamin Button, cold flows, reverse time. To find deliveries good as mine, you gotta search primes. I'm scaling heights higher than birds can perch, trying to be something, hoping that peace comes to my cursed mind. I love these lines. Benjamin Button is the movie where that main character ages in reverse. He starts off old and becomes a baby as the movie progresses. Cold flows, reverse time. When you reverse time, it's like you want to go back to better times. So cold flows brings you back to better days, more nostalgia. Also emphasizing maybe him being a timeless artist. And sometimes music makes you want to reflect on your past, so cold brings you back to those moments. Now for the deliveries and the Prime, I thought was interesting. Everyone knows how fast Amazon Prime delivers with their 2-day turnarounds. So you order some toothpaste because it's going to come quicker than you getting in your car, driving to the local Walgreens to get it. Lazy asses. But here, a nice entendre on deliveries, referring to his flow and the shipping speed of Amazon Prime. And also Prime referring to Amazon Prime and rappers in their prime were prime OG rappers. So it's like you got to go back to the OG rappers to see raps like mine. The heights, I like how these lines made me feel. I'm scaling heights higher than birds can perch. You know, you see the birds hanging like on those electrical cables all around the city or on the rooftop of houses, and you look and you're like, how the hell did they get up there? Or if you want to shoot them, you can't because they're so damn high. So like that, I want to reach these sort of heights in my life's journey. Now, the line I really liked at the end of that was his comparison about peace and the cursed mind. This line I love because Cole is acknowledging the desire for peace, but also the existence of turmoil in his life. And Kendrick talks a lot about that conflict in his music, to be honest with you, probably way more than J. Cole. The conflict of fulfilling your desires but wanting to do the right thing. And so he says in the song You off of To Pimp a Butterfly, loving you is complicated. He's talking to himself about not being at peace while you're trying to yearn for people's compliments in the attempt to become a superstar while forgetting your neighborhood, family, and friends. Let's get to the next line. I've seen lifelong friends turn to devilish ops. I was Mike in red leather trying to tell him to stop. You better beat it for you see the heavy metal get popped. He was a mean ass swing with a hell of a shot, but if no team draft king, he gonna bet on the block. He want a ball till he fall to the Federals knock and sit his ass on a bench for moving careless with rock. Dope ass bars. But some people tried to say that he was talking about Kendrick here, but I don't think so. And I actually think these bars are broken into two separate sections. So first, where people think he's talking about Kendrick, where he talks about being, Mike in red leather, I think he's talking to someone in his past who I don't think we can say who that person is. And then talking to himself after that, referring to himself in the third person. Yes, people will try to play into this being Kendrick, but even though I think this song does have one really strong Kendrick sneak diss enough to bother me, I don't think this one was it. But this Michael Jackson, I think, went over a lot of people's heads. And I think it was more deep than we think. First, this gives us that nice badass image of Mike Jack in that red leather jacket doing this wild dance moves in that music video, Beat It. It's interesting because many people think at first glance that Michael Jackson is talking about being violent or fighting and saying beat it to the perpetrator. But actually, Michael Jackson in those lyrics is telling the person who's being violated to beat it. He says in Beat It, they're out to get you, better leave while you can. Don't want to be a boy, you want to be a man. You want to stay alive, better do what you can. So beat it, just beat it. In other words, leave this alone. Protect your energy and don't get involved in this fight because I know you want to be tough and stand up for yourself, but you may not come out of this alive. So it's best to walk away. Now, not only was this a great metaphor for what he's saying about his friend, I thought this was a great metaphor for J. Cole himself as he maneuvered around the rap beef. He bowed out with an apology to Kendrick and is now nearly apologizing to Drake. So he sort of beat it. He walked away because, as he says later in the song, it would have got real ugly. So while this beat it reference is a metaphor for someone else, it's actually a great metaphor for how Cole handled himself in the beef and taking heed to Michael Jackson's words from the song Beat It and then using it as an entendre here in this song. Now to the second part of the verse where I think there's a switch here in who he's referencing. I don't think he's referencing that other person anymore. How I see it when he says he was a mean ass swing with a hell of a shot, but if no team draft king go bet on the block, I see it as he's referencing not the friend who betrayed him, but himself, because he refers to how he wanted to play basketball, but also worries about getting stuck in the hood, hustling and getting caught. So J. Cole is referring to his younger self in the third person. But these bars were crazy fire and some really nice metaphors, basically saying he wants to make it in basketball, but if he doesn't, then he wants to hustle until he gets caught and taken to prison. And he said all this while keeping up basketball references in every line. But if no team draft king, he gonna bet on the block. So if he doesn't get drafted, if this king doesn't get drafted, then he's going to go back to the blocks. But also DraftKings being some kind of online casino platform, he want to ball till he fall to the federal knock. He want to ball, play basketball, or he wants to hustle until he can't anymore, or he gets caught, and sent to prison and sit his ass on a bench for moving careless with rock. Still the parallel between being in the hood and selling drugs and the basketball reference, which is rock being basketball. So sit on the bench because you're not playing good basketball, and sit on the bench for moving careless with the bad stuff that you're trying to do, the drugs and all that kind of stuff that you're trying to sell, or hustle, you're going to put in prison for that. Cole has said in a Rolling Stone interview that he did have a fork in the road, and at one point he had to decide whether to pursue basketball or rapping. He said, I was at a fork in the road, turn left and live a life dedicated to basketball and the long and arduous pursuit of a far-fetched NBA career, or turn right and go do what you came here to do. And at one point, he played basketball in an African league and the Canadian league. Also, some don't know that in 2023, he gained actually a very small stake in the basketball team, the Charlotte Hornets. So it's a very small, but pretty cool. I've heard reports that it's less than 1%, but hey, it's just a nice fun fact. They say he could do some small things like maybe make an anthem for the team, use the merch and things like that. I wanted to get to this Lil Durk line I thought was kind of interesting. I learned long ago, you can't please them all and it hurts trying. In this game where all you've got is your name, like Durk, I'm smirking at dudes trying to besmirch mine. I like the play on the Lil Durk, the name Besmirch. I just love this line because, it reminded me of when Justin from the YouTube channel The Company Man said about What's the Dirt, referring to his Family Matters breakdown, that he is lost in his own hubris. And What's the Dirt responded by saying, this guy is saying I'm lost, never mentioning the word hubris, without looking up the word's meaning, and where it means excessive pride or self-confidence. It was just an interesting interaction, I thought. And I will say that I knew the word hubris. Thank you, Justin, for teaching me a new word, because I definitely was like, oh, that's interesting. Now, this line reminded me of that. J. Cole is using a word we don't know, but you better look it up so you can get the reference. So like Durk, I'm smirking at dudes trying to besmirch mine. Besmirch means tarnish or soil or discredit. So he's saying I'm laughing at these dudes or catching up with these dudes that are trying to discredit me. And it was a nice sound, smirk, besmirch, and a nice new vocabulary word for us. And thank you to Justin from The Company Man for this as well. Another interesting line where he says, I hate what raps become, like do not disturb signs. Can't knock if I see it's about the dough. Interesting, again, this plays into, I think, J. Cole also his kind of somewhat flip-flopping, like calling things out but wanting to be a part of it at the same time. So he's saying like rap, I don't like what it's become. It's kind of like do not disturb. When you see a do not disturb sign, you can't enter. Something shady is happening behind the scenes, whatever that may be, and you don't want to bother, you don't want to enter because you don't want to stay away. So he says, I can't knock on that door also. It's like interesting double entendre here. I can't knock, but I can't knock it. If it's about money, if it's about doing something, I can't say that's completely wrong, man. J. Cole, he's legendary when it comes to lyricism. But again, I think this does play into Cole's somewhat flip-flopping. It's like, bro, where do you stand? Like, where do you stand, Cole? We just want to know. Next line. Now we're going to get into his criticism of the rap beef with Kendrick and Drake. Absurd times where the fake get toted as wise. I can see hate in both of your eyes, but the third's blind. So you search lines, but you struggle, which explains the puzzled look on the dull faces the word finds. I'm not going to lie. These were some fire bars. And I want to break down the lyrics themselves and then discuss my thoughts on these sentiments. Of course, I had a feeling about what he's saying, but I do think these bars were phenomenal. Now he's referring to Kendrick and Drake and the rap beef, saying, I can see the hate in both of you, but your third eye is blind. The third eye, we all know what is culturally come to be known as that wisdom, but it originally came from ancient Buddhism and Hinduism, referring to an area between your eyes in the middle of your forehead and believed to be somewhat of this gateway to a higher consciousness. But ultimately, third eye, just a reference to be a smarter version of yourself, see things in a higher light. But he's saying, I can see the hate, but you don't have that other eye. And this to me is fine for Drake, but not Kendrick. So I think J. Cole really needed to be better with differentiating things in the song. You came and you apologized to Kendrick, right? All the way in the beginning, when you said about one of his most notable albums in history and will be hip-hop classic forever, To Pimp a Butterfly was a sleeper, right? We gave you a pass for that, Cole. The album that had the song All Right on it, that was being played during protests. What third eye are we talking about here? And that's fine that you pulled back and apologized. But why say this again and include Kendrick? Why come back and double down on? I don't know. That's the part that of course, as a Kendrick fan, it kind of, definitely bothered me. And not even as a glaze for Kendrick, as someone that's definitely been a fan of early Drake, respectfully, I think many can agree there's no third eye in Drake's music. But Kendrick is probably one of the very few rappers, if not the few artists, that display the power of a third eye in their music. We're seeing things beyond what they really are. Okay, Drake, One Dance, You My Everything, Passion Fruit, Hotline Bling. Kendrick, We Gon' Be Alright. You from To Pimp a Butterfly. I, Sing to Me I'm Dying of Thirst, The Blacker the Berry. No third eye? Again, J. Cole, you're messing up. Like, you're messing up, brother. You did this before. You apologized. You're going to have to come back and apologize to Kendrick again. You have to come back and apologize to Kendrick again. I ain't accepting it. And again, this is the dubiousness and trepidation I see with J. Cole. Listen, for J. Cole fans, J. Cole's phenomenal. But I think he flip-flops a lot on his stance. And some things he says are questionable, especially about Kendrick. Are you apologizing, but now you're going to diss? No, if you apologize, then be careful how you come back at Kendrick. I'm sorry, it is what it is, and people can take it as they want. But no, I just don't feel J. Cole's take on the inclusion of Kendrick as being some reckless dude who just wanted clicks and money was okay to say. Despite Kendrick and J. Cole having a history, but I always wondered why Kendrick never fully embraced J. Cole in recent time. Kind of keeps a distance. And I think these are the reasons. J. Cole, he kind of flip-flops. Like, imagine Kendrick embraced Cole and then Cole turns around and throws Kendrick under the bus with all these accusations of his bad intentions during the rap beef. Cole is like the friend who you can't fully trust. He's like the one dude that if you ever got into trouble, he would rat your ass out. But like, he's still an okay friend, so you don't want to lose him. He's your gunner. He's a friend you're going to hang out with after school, but if you did something wrong in class, he's going to be the first person to tell the teacher. Now, let me get to this next line, which I think is fire. So you search lines, but you struggle, which explains the puzzled look on the dull faces the word finds. So you have hate. So you all are just searching for words to diss each other. But because you're just doing this for nothing, you have a hard time. And that's why your faces are confused when you see what you come up with. But I think here it's interesting. There's two things. Dull faces on the rapper for coming up with the words, but the dull faces on the listener. I think here is saying that you're confused by it. The listener explains the puzzled look on the dull faces that your words are reaching, like the listener of your words. They're kind of in a daze because all this has no substance, he's saying. All right, next lines. They instigate the effery because it's profitable, but sing and stop the violence tunes when dudes in hospitals. I pulled the plug because I've seen where that was about to go. They wanted blood, they wanted clicks to make their pockets grow. Now let's get to what I think is the true, real sneak diss on Kendrick that really bothered me. And people can take this as they want. People are going to say, no, he's talking about this. Here is the line that bothered me a lot. Right after referring to Drake and Kendrick, he says, they instigate the effery because it's profitable. So my question then is, who is he referring to here? Okay, so look, it's either they is random, they instigate the effery, other rappers, but I'm not buying that because he's just spoke right in the previous bar. He's speaking about the Kendrick and Drake beef. Either that or he's talking about Kendrick or Drake. But the line after, he says, but sing and stop the violence tunes when dudes in hospitals. Drake? Drake is not sing and stop the violence songs. The only person who can be seen as sing and stop the violence tunes is Kendrick, because he had songs with these sort of references. And I think he's kind of misunderstanding also the music, but that's the only connection I can make. I mean, the song All Right was played in protest of police violence, and people chanted, we gonna be all right at protest. In the You song off of To Pimp a Butterfly, Kendrick tells a narrative of feeling like a hypocrite for preaching, but not really being there for the people that mattered. He says, you preached in front of 100,000, but never reached her. I can tell you, you failure, you ain't no leader. And later in the song, someone's criticizing him as he's tearing up for still being on this road to stardom while good friends were dying in the hospital from gunshots.
You even FaceTime instead of a hospital visit.
And in the song Triple X off of the Damn album, which has a fire verse by Kendrick, there's a break in the song where he's talking about being violent, but then he has to go talk about stopping the violence to kids.
All right, kids, we're going to talk about gun control.
Matter of fact, I'm about to speak at this convention, call you back. All right, kids, we're going to talk about gun control. Damn. Kendrick could be the only person being referenced as stop the violence music, even though it's a shallow, simplistic view, to be honest. But I think this line also is a head-to-head line to Kendrick's line against Drake in Euphoria all the way in the beginning. When Kendrick is the one who said, I hate when rappers talk about guns and somebody die, they turn it to nuns. Then hop online, like pray for my city, he fake it for likes and digital hugs. J. Cole, no offense, Kendrick said it first and said it better in his first response to Drake. And this is why these lines come off as disingenuous towards Kendrick, because it feels like he's saying, I bowed out, but I'm better. But these two goons, Drake and Kendrick, were dumb. They were just doing it for clout and money. Not me. Me, on the other hand, I'm the bigger person. I pulled the plug because I've seen where that was about to go. They wanted blood. They wanted clicks to make their pockets grow. They wanted clicks to make their pockets grow. And this also feels another disingenuous line in a sense. As rap bars, they're good. But as what they're intended towards, I'm not with. Because again, it almost feels like J. Cole's truly on another plane. Like he doesn't know what's actually going on. At this point in both Kendrick and Drake's career, do we really think they did this rap beef for getting clicks? Even Drake. I mean, we're talking about the biggest rappers, the biggest artists, damn near globally. Do you think Kendrick needed to beef with Drake to get some clicks? I mean, it's like a super simplistic view of Kendrick. Kendrick has some of the most notable hip-hop albums and will be forever stamped as classics. He needed to do this for clicks and money? The person who made To Pimp a Butterfly, the person who made the Damn album? I just don't buy it. And I think Cole could have said this better. And this is what makes Cole seem a little out of touch with the culture. All right, next lines. They see this fire in my pen and think I'm dodging smoke. I wouldn't have lost the battle, dog. I would have lost the bro. I would have gained a foe. And all for what? Just to attain some mo props from strangers that don't got a clue what I'm be aiming for. These were good lines, but let me get to them. So when he says they see fire in my pen, I wondered, was he talking to the fans or trying to talk to Drake and Kendrick themselves directly? Definitely with all the memes of J. Cole and like J. Fold and many people criticizing J. Cole for not partaking in the battle, I think he wants to redeem himself and try to give himself some credit. Part of me feels this is a message to both the fans, but also a message to Kendrick and Drake. Like he's saying, don't think just because y'all beefed and I bowed out, I was dodging the smoke. Cole, I mean, I think what you did was the literal definition of dodging smoke. I mean, that's okay, man. I'm just saying. But how should we take it exactly? And this line, I think, was a little controversial, where he says, I wouldn't have lost the battle. I would have gained the foe. Some people were trying to say that J. Cole was trying to say that he would have won the battle. And others were saying, he's not saying he would have won. He's saying if I partook, I wouldn't have lost the battle. But instead, like I wouldn't have lost anything. It's what really would have happened. I would have lost a friend and made an enemy. It's kind of like he's not saying that he would have won or lost. That's definitely more like what I agree to what I think he's saying. But if we take it like he's just saying he wouldn't have lost a battle, but just lost a friend, I do find it interesting. He could have said, I wouldn't have won a battle. I would have lost a friend, right? But he doesn't say that. Instead, he says, I wouldn't have lost. Almost implying that the sentiment, if he partook, would have been that he lost, or that the current sentiment is that he lost someone in the battle, right? Just another perspective. And again, this is why I feel J. Cole can be a little out of touch, because the truth is the sentiment was that after seeing the amazing rap beef between Kendrick and Drake and how it played out, most people actually felt that J. Cole won in a way, like in his own way. He apologized, he bowed out and moved on. People respected him. It got really ugly and people were like, man, this guy Cole, he's chilling. This is why I didn't think some of the cruel sentiments towards Kendrick in this song were needed, because it's somewhat reinvigorated to me the idea, wait a second, Cole, like coming here, you're talking messy again, right? You did that in 7-minute drill, you apologized, and then you bowed out. So we should be good. It's like someone saying sorry and stepping away from a fight. I ain't gonna fight you, I'm good. Apologize, we ain't gonna fight. And then coming back a week later, you know what, to beat your ass, right? I just bowed out because I don't like fighting. I think he could have done without some of this stuff. I do like the lines where he says, you do this all for what? Gaining clout from people you don't even know, referring to us, the fans, and the critics that don't really know what your true aim and goals are. It was a good line, but the truth is I would ask then, J. Cole, what do you do it for? Which he later mentions somewhat is doing it for more for himself, to reach out to others, to connect with people and things like that. But I think there's always a sense that what you do is somewhat for yourself and somewhat for others. This was an interesting take on Cole's part. The next line, digging up dirt. Since the age of 14, Jermaine is no king. If that means I gotta dig up dirt and pay the whole team of algorithm bot dudes just to sway the whole thing on social media competing for your favorable memes. I have to say the lines are phenomenal. The lines are phenomenal. Even though I'm mad about the sentiment of what he's saying. These lines were just nice rap lines, but definitely had me raising my eyebrow. He's saying, I can't consider myself a great person, right? If I have to pay to find dirt on you and slander you just so I can get some clout on social media. Good lines, but again, J. Cole out of touch here a little bit. It's a nice sentiment, but I personally really do not believe that Kendrick and Drake beef was some money grab. I'm sorry, I just don't. And I think that is exactly what made the beef so good, so long, and become one of the best in history because of how authentic it actually came off. It feels like there was really a back and forth between them that had built up for years and finally reached this tipping point when they were both ignoring each other for the most part. I mean, for years doing their little jabs, and now they're at the top of their game and like, okay, now it's time to just let it all out. Like it just reached a tipping point and just exploded. Like the water just got out of the kettle. But J. Cole is painting it like it was a cruel money grab. I can't lie that this isn't an interesting way for J. Cole to paint it, especially when he wants to be seen as the good guy. But I just don't think that that's what it was. Now onto the algorithm bot thing. Many people wanted to say this was about Kendrick, but it's hard to say because both Kendrick and Drake were being accused of botting songs. It may feel like Kendrick more so only because Academics, who just has a bigger voice in hip hop, was really pushing that narrative hard and interviewing people who claimed they were working for Kendrick's people to bot Not Like Us. For Drake's side, Kendrick had to fight that battle himself. He didn't have media personalities speaking out against Drake botting. He himself had to say in 616 in LA, you playing dirty with propaganda, it blow up on you. You're playing nerdy with Zach Bia and Twitter bots, but your reality can't hide behind Wi-Fi. Your little memes is losing steam, they figured you out. Look at the comparison between Cole's line and Kendrick's line again here. Almost, again, it's like Kendrick said it first. Kendrick kind of made the better point first. I don't doubt botting is something used in the music industry, but the bottom line is whether or not either side paid to get some inflated numbers, the culture speaks. And the sentiment is that regardless, it isn't botting that made Kendrick's song actually better. Euphoria and Not Like, and these songs, they were better songs. His disses hit harder and he played more strategically. While Drake's songs, some points were all right, but a lot of points fell apart on Kendrick. And a lot of lines aged horribly, botting or no botting. So again, Cole, nice sentiment, but let's not play that this was all botting. But again, J. Cole is trying to say, I'm the bigger person. I didn't want to play that game. Then he says, to be considered best or live and rest. The weight of both things, I understand the thirst of being first that made them both swing, protecting legacies. So lines got crossed, perhaps regrettably. My friends went to war. I walked away with all their blood on me. Now some will discredit me, try wipe away my pedigree, but please find a dude that's rapping this incredibly. Now onto these verses, J. Cole really wants to stand on the sidelines and be seen as the better rapper. I guess here's what I have to say. J. Cole, maybe you do need to fight. Maybe you do need to engage in some competition to be considered the best. There's a championship game for a reason. People play, it leads up to championship games, and the person who wins gets the trophy and is the winner, the champion. And that's why I've always said, despite my love for Kendrick and his music, I still have given Drake credit. And I do give him credit for competing against such a strong opponent, an MC like Kendrick. He tried, and he tried hard. I give credit to that aspect. But J. Cole just bowed out. And that's okay too. I have no problem with that. But to come around months later and paint the narrative can feel somewhat disingenuous. Respectfully to J. Cole. So my question to Cole is, what makes you the best? Like, what do you want the goalpost to be, right? I can only assume J. Cole just wants to make good music and let the numbers decide, perhaps. But that kind of sounds like Drake, right? Just make music, let the numbers decide. But Cole, is that really the way? Maybe there is a bigger play here. And it isn't just about making music and looking at the numbers. Maybe the culture, the fans, the art, the creativity, the combat, the engagement, the respect, the disrespect matters in hip hop. It's okay to not want to partake, but I don't think it makes sense to be out of touch with the reality of hip hop. And don't get me wrong, I'm all for J. Cole's stance for what it is, but his stance should not take away from Kendrick's stance, nor Drake's. Now, some will discredit me, try wipe away my pedigree. And here is the line that makes all of this seem like a ploy for J. Cole to say, hey, I'm still here, I'm still the best. And you know what? I forgive him for that too as well. Because you know what, Cole, just like I think you are misrepresenting Kendrick's partaking in the rap battle as a ploy for clicks and money, here you are doing what you're criticizing them of, dissing their intentions and the rap beef only in an attempt to put yourself in a better light in front of the fans. The same fans you're saying on social media competing for your favorable memes, you're competing for the same here. You don't want people to wipe away your pedigree and your position in hip hop, and neither did Drake or Kendrick want that either. Next line. My dog texted me, I'll share the words he said to me. If you refuse to shoot the gun, don't mean the gun ain't deadly. I guess in that metaphor, hypothetically, the gun is me. I text him back like, guess a gun ain't what I'm trying to be. And these are the lines that give away what J. Cole wants out of hip hop. His friends telling him, look, you bowed out. You chose not to use a weapon. But that doesn't mean you, J. Cole, the weapon, are not something to be reckoned with. And side note, honestly, it just sounds like a good friend trying to help you cope. Like he tried to help him cope with losing the battle. But hey, that's what friends are for. But here Cole clarifies his stance. Maybe the weapon is not what I'm trying to be. And I think this solidifies Cole's stance. I don't necessarily want to be this dangerous MC. I just want to make good music and be friends with everyone. And you see, this is why Kendrick was right from the beginning. Not as a form of disrespect to J. Cole, but J. Cole's stance sounds a little like Drake's stance. I just want to make good music. Kendrick said, mother F the big three, it's just big me. Bum. Maybe Kendrick doesn't just want to make good music. Maybe to Kendrick, there's more to the story, and he has a bigger mission than just making good music. And that's why I think Kendrick wanted to separate himself from you, J. Cole, and Drake in first-person shooter. And he wanted that to be clear to the fans, which is why he dropped the verse on Like That to express it. Now let's get to the Drake praise. The Drake, am I tripping or is this a damn ode to Drake? J. Cole, are you apologizing to Drake? Apologizing to Kendrick, now apologizing to Drake? What the hell is going on? They stripped me on my spot and now I'm finally free. They say I'm picking sides. Hey, don't you lie on me. And let me tell you, there were a lot of like YouTubers making videos about, trying to pick J. Cole against Drake. And he says, then start another war. Hey, Drake, you'll always be mine. I ain't ashamed to say you did a lot for me, my. F all the narratives, tapping back into your magic pen is what's imperative. Reminding these folks why we do it. It's not for beefing, it's for speaking our thoughts, pushing ourselves, reaching the charts. Then he goes on to say, reaching your minds, deep in your heart, emotions to touch, help you cope. I'm sending love. And he goes on to say these words. So is J. Cole literally apologizing a second damn time? First to Kendrick and now to Drake, but to Drake for no damn reason? You didn't even really diss Drake, Cole. So I have to say the song could have definitely done without all this Drake lazing. And where were you months ago? Many sentiments and comments are like, well, a friend doesn't let another friend fight a 20-person battle. You left Drake alone. Kendrick destroyed him. And now you're coming after the smoke cleared to say, hey, Drake, I'm still your friend. True friend. Is that a true friend? No, but really, I do give Cole credit here. I'm being facetious because with all the strong narratives against Drake, for Cole to come out and speak up, it's worth something because no one else did. Better late than never. Not even 21 Savage nor Lil Yachty did a damn thing, who are really his close constituents. So ironically, it sounds like J. Cole is telling Drake the same thing Kendrick told him all the way back in Euphoria. I like Drake with the melodies. I don't like Drake when he act tough. And even a lot of the fans after Drake lost. People just wanted to see him continue, like what he was gonna do. They wanted him to just continue rapping, make good music. But the first thing he released was a silly song called You My Everything with Sexy Red. And as of this video, it feels like he's just not come back properly. He just hasn't get put together. My other problem with this ode to Drake is that it feels imbalanced because J. Cole dissed Kendrick. He made a whole diss song trying to discredit his discography, his amazing discography, and then bowed out and apologized. So it feels like we're even. Like you diss me,